Hi, I'm David English, President of TSL Marketing. Thanks for joining on the latest installment in our series, Channel Marketing Strategy. Today we're going to talk about how do you create a joint marketing plan. This will be part one of a two-part series. And today we're going to focus really on a lot of the foundational items that are required to have a successful plan implementation. A lot of times people want to jump right into what are the tactics that we should do, what are the activities that we should do to create leads and create demand and awareness. But they don't spend enough time on getting the right foundations correct. And this is not unlike where we might have the perfectly executed tactical plan, but we're targeting the wrong segment. So we want to focus first on several key things. The first thing we like to talk about in creating a joint marketing plan is the segment. And this is either who we're targeting and or what we're selling. Now this is important because many of us will come to it from one perspective or another. Both can be appropriate. If I'm a product company, I tend to want to focus more on what I'm selling. So this is my product that I want to sell to the market. Whereas a services company and many resellers may focus first on who I'm supporting. So I want to provide a broad set of services to this type of contact. So it's important that we spend some time on this and look at where are our commonalities. For example, maybe they're closely aligned. Maybe you're providing unified communication services, and you find that you want to target mid-sized businesses to help them with their communication needs, and your partner also wants to target mid-sized businesses to help them with their communication needs. You're very tightly aligned. On the other hand, maybe you're selling business analytics software, and you want to sell that across all industries and contact types, but you may partner with somebody who's looking to support financial decision makers within large insurance companies. And so these are important things to really flush out in the initial planning structure. Next is value proposition. And we look at value prop really as value prop of partner A, value prop of partner B, and value prop of partners A and B together. Now I know some of you are thinking, okay, we're going to go to market under that joint value proposition of A plus B together. Not necessarily. This may surprise many of you. We don't necessarily have to go to market with a joint value proposition. A lot of it's going to depend on who we're selling to. In some cases, we can make a sequential value proposition to a customer that will eventually go from A to B to A plus B. For example, I may have a partner that's really more of a fulfillment partner, in which case I'm going to do, as partner A, most of the selling. I'm going to go to market with my value prop. Once I've convinced them to buy my product, as an example, I'm going to bring my partner in who can help them implement the product. That's value prop A leading into value prop B. And to make the final sale, we're highlighting value prop A plus B. There are, of course, many times where we do want to go to market on that joint value prop, but keep in mind that it doesn't have to be that way. And it can go A and then B, or it can go B and then A. Both scenarios can work as well, of course, as A plus B. All right, next we want to get into, obviously we want to do a thorough SWOT analysis of both companies together and independently where they overlap. I like to pay for marketing particular attention to the skills of both partners. What do I mean by skills? Yes, we can get into things like technical skills. That's important for overall planning. From a marketing plan perspective, we're just going to assume for a second that that's taken care of. We don't want to make that assumption when we really plan, but for today's conversation, we're just going to assume that's okay. So I'll focus on marketing skills and sales skills. Let's focus first on sales skills. This is actually most important to me as a marketer. Why do I care about that? Well, a lot of times we may create a plan that assumes that there are certain sales skills at the back end of this. We don't want to make that assumption. We want to find out what skills do we each have, each of us as partners have, and that we'll bring to the joint relationship. How do we find out what the skills are? Well, we can ask, but sometimes people aren't self-aware of their skills. A good example is I often will ask companies, are you able to sell net new business? Guess what percentage of people say, yes, we can do that to that question? It's really close to 100%. Nobody ever says, sorry, we really can't sell to save our life, or we can't sell our way out of a paper bag. We never hear that. So how do we assess the sales skills? Well, one thing we'll then ask is, tell me about your sales team, how much of their quota is on net new business? Or how much net new business did they generate last year? These would be brand new customers that didn't come from referral. And often we'll find out that, sure, we think we can sell net new business, but our reps are 100% quoted. They can achieve 100% of their quota on existing customers. So if you give them something early in the sales state, early in the sales process to that rep, they're not going to spend the time on it. They don't have to. It's not going to be of interest to them. And your entire plan, which might be a great marketing plan, is going to fail when it hits the sales level. Second is we want to assess the marketing skills. Why do we want to do that? Well, because if we've got really robust and fantastic marketing skills, our plan that we'll eventually get to can be very complex and sophisticated and exciting. But if we've got very basic skills at one of the two partners that are required, we're going to be better off designing a simple plan. Simple can sometimes be much better where we have low skills in the marketing side. Next, we want to look at what type of business do we want to generate. Well, this is, again, where we might have a wide variety of options. We can target net new customers. These would be customers that are brand new to both of us. That would be one type of business. We can target cross-selling partner A or partner B's customers, or in theory, both. So this is where partner B is going to be selling into the customer or the partner A install base. And then finally, we can look at an upgrade. Often this can be a joint customer that may have an older product. How are we going to get them to upgrade to a newest offering versus what they may have in place today? And then finally, we're going to get to goals, which will lead into the plan. Some of you may be asking, why are we getting goals? Why are we hitting goals after we've gone through all of this? Well, you can certainly start with goals if you want. I frankly think it can be done both in the beginning and then come back to it at the end. But this is where you want to set out and say, okay, net new customers, how many net new customers do we want? What's the revenue there? How much are we going to get from upgrades? How much are we going to get from cross-selling? And really map out some of those goals. That would be a closed business goal. We might then get into a pipeline goal. What pipeline is needed to achieve those goals? And then there may be some sub-goals. Maybe if we've got value prop A and B, maybe awareness might be something we're really interested in. So really trying to map out these goals. We don't want too many top-line goals, but a few very clear top-line goals that we can then build to as we go through the next step. This is what we're going to catch up in part 2, is when we'll talk about the plan parts, or the actual plan itself. Now we've got all the foundational items together. Next we're going to get into tactics and messaging and all of the things that will lead us to achieve our goals. So we hope you'll be here to join us on the next part 2 of this series, and thank you for listening to us today.